Hey guys, my name is Nora Franch, and welcome to the podcast Grateful Blessed Mess, daily reflections for those in the 12 steps. I am a fellow 12-stepper and certified mindset coach, and I am here to introduce you to the value of mindset coaching in your 12-step journey. So if you feel like you are stuck in the steps, if you're slipping and sliding with your abstinence, mindset coaching may help you as it did me, and you can find me at CatholicMindsetCoaching.com. These episodes are meant to invite you in to consider the truths of 12-step wisdom and to join in the very real struggle of living them in action. I hope that it feels almost like a mini meeting, and I invite you to contribute your own share on the Grateful Blessedness Facebook group to keep the discussion going. My comments are based on my own experience, so feel free to take what you like and leave the rest. But my hope is to encourage you on your own daily 12-step journey. As they say, you cannot stay clean on yesterday's shower. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, again, a day at a time. One day at a time. But we are reading from the book, A Day at a Time. Here we are on April 5th. Still another common thread we invariably see among slippers is that many of them felt dissatisfaction with today. I forgot we live one day at a time, or I began to anticipate the future. Or I began to plan results, not just plan. Ooh. They seem to forget that all we have is now. Life continued to get better for them, and as many of us do, they forgot how bad it had been. They began to think instead of how dissatisfying it was to compare what it could be. Do I compare today with yesterday? Realizing by that contrast, what great benefits and blessings I have today. If I am discouraged with today, may I remember the sorrows and hassles of yesterday. If I am impatient for the future, let me appreciate today and how much better it is than the life I left behind. May I never forget the principle of one day at a time. Today I will remember the craziness of yesterday. So there is a virtue called memoria in Latin, which really means memory. And it's the ability to recall the past so that we can learn from it. That is a virtue. And it's funny, I remember early on feeling like I was bipolar or something, not in my understanding, like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing, where one day I was somber, I was remembering the past, I didn't want to go there anymore. I was ready to do the hard work for a better tomorrow. And then on other days, I was like, what was I so worried about? Like, I'm fine. I'm doing fine. Like, calm down, Nora. We don't need to be dramatic. And it was like I was two different people, depending on the day. And those days where I was like, oh my gosh, stop being so silly. What are you worried about? I was not recalling with accuracy the memory of the pain from the past, even if that past was just yesterday. I was minimizing what had been. And that's a huge part of, I think, why old timers keep coming back and being in meetings and working with newcomers, is because it keeps that memory fresh of where they were or what they could be, so that you don't start to get sloppy, so that you don't start to listen to that diseased voice in your head saying, oh, it wasn't that bad. Stop making such a big deal about things. And so that you can continue in a solid program instead of making it a smaller and smaller part of your life. And I just think that's really, really valuable, and it's really interesting. And clearly, if it's a virtue, if it's gone to that level, like, this is something hefty in terms of being able to live toward the person it is that you want to become. There's almost like a special kind of grace in remembering who it was that you were, even if that was just 10 minutes ago. And then this other part, which I think we've talked about before, but either living in the past or anticipating the future, not staying in the now. And I just like to remember that my higher power, who I call God, another name that you hear about is he is the great I am. He literally is. That's the present tense of the word to be. He literally is existence in the present moment. And I just think that is so beautiful. And I keep trying to remember that because people in program would tell me your higher power is only in the present. The reason why the past is so sad and the future so scary is because your higher power isn't there. And that's because he's perpetually in the present. And when I remember that, it helps. But there's also something else I learned, that I'm not given the grace to do whatever it is in the future until I'm in that moment. And that is something that I always knew intellectually. And it really became real for me when I had my baby. And I was literally freaking out ahead of time that I just wasn't going to be able to do it. I couldn't do it. I was anticipating all these things that would make it harder, or just how hard it would be. And I was coached by another coach who specializes in postpartum fitness and recovery and everything. Her name is Megan Geffert. You guys should all check her out if you are considering or in the midst of pregnancy and babies. But she coached me through a lot of my fears around it, and how a lot of these fears had nothing to do with what was actually going on. They were just things to work through. And anyway, what helped me was, for whatever reason, and I think obviously it was like my higher power working, was that for the first time, like working with her and praying and all these things, I was able to get to the place of, yeah, that seems really scary and undoable right now. But I firmly believe that when the moment comes, I'll be given the grace to do it, to bear it. And the cool part is, I did. And it was just the most beautiful experience I've had to date of any labor and delivery, because my trust in God grew so much going into it that I was really able to trust fall on my higher power when things were hitting a breaking point. Anyway, not experience everyone can relate to, but if something is ahead of you that is especially scary and painful, I want you to consider that thinking about it ahead of time is only so helpful. I mean, it's good to know it's coming, but if you're getting lost in that fear, consider that maybe, if it's something that you have to do, consider that maybe it's scary because it's not there yet, and it feels like you can't do it because right now you can't. But perhaps you can believe that you'll be given the grace to do it when the moment comes. With that, I pass.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you feel that mindset coaching could help you on your 12-step journey, please feel free to reach out and find me at catholicmindsetcoaching.com. But more than that, it's important to me to give listeners like yourself a place where you do not need to feel alone on your 12-step journey. And for that reason, I've created a Facebook group. It's called Grateful Blessed Mess. And it's a place where listeners can go to add their own commentary on the share for the day, in addition to my own, and for us just to have a conversation or start a back and forth where people can find support in their 12-step journey. This is not a replacement for 12-step work. This is something outside of the 12 steps. It is simply something that has a heart for the 12 steps and those who are in it. And so, welcome. If you are here, chances are you may also be a bit of a mess. And I hope that you can learn to find some gratitude in the blessings that have come from your messes.